Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on the Sitcom Showdown. Hello, dear listener. It's Jeff here, and this is Sitcom Showdown. I'm with Steve. Hello, Steve.
G'day.
Hi.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going very, very well. Now, around these here parts, Steve, we've still got a bit of Christmas cheer going on because I'm insisting on doing the Christmas episode, but even though it is February. Do you have any objection, by the way, to that at all?
No. Cool. I thought it was more of an end of the world theme than a Christmas theme.
Okay. Well, it does both.
Yep.
All right, I'll let you ask me what I picked.
Well, okay. What did you pick, Jeff?
What I picked...
Surprise me.
Hey, it's an episode of The Goodies, which is called Earthanasia. So, between what Steve said and the title, you've got a clue. It was Series 7, Episode 6 of The Goodies. Shall I just launch into a bit of context on this, Steve?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. So this was broadcast on the 22nd of December, way back in 1977, and that was on BBC 2 at 9 o'clock at night. Very different to how we watched The Goodies after school, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So this episode is 45 years old, but it does still hold up beautifully, even though it's me saying that. I'm sure you'll either agree or disagree, Steve. But the elevator pitch for this particular episode of The Goodies is that late on Christmas Eve, it's announced around the world that the problems of every society on the planet is too difficult to be solved. Can't solve these intractable problems. All the world leaders have mutually agreed to blow up the world at midnight, which puts Earth out of its misery. But what are the Goodies going to do with their final half hour of life?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. So the Goodies itself, which we have covered, and when did we cover that, Steve? It was back in episode something.
I'm not prepared with this kind of information.
Normally we're very on the ball and can suggest to the listener subtly that they might want to listen to one of our old episodes, but on this occasion, the number escapes me.
That was Scoutrageous, wasn't it?
It was Scoutrageous, and a bloody great episode it was too.
Yeah, corker.
Yeah. So the Goodies, for those unaware of it basically ran for a decade on the BBC, from 1970 to around 1980, and I say around because they did 8 series, and, there was some small gaps and things. Anyhow, they did one series on London Weekend Television, a rival network, after that in 81, 82. And the Goodies was, in a way, aiming to be like a live-action cartoon. And the three Goodies, they were well known for their incredible slapstick skills, and the effects guys who worked on the show did some amazing practical effects sequences. Yeah.
Offensive.
That could be a...
offensive effects.
Maybe a Freudian slip there. Yes, but they're also very satirical, right? So the Goodies were also extremely clever and cutting with, all the cultural trends of the age got skewered and things. So it's not just running around being stupid, it's also very clever. But yeah, the Goodies motto was, we do anything, anytime. And I've put in brackets, and more or less anywhere. So they were essentially a trio of troubleshooters for hire. And then people would hire them to sort out all these various problems, right? So it could either be babysitting, or it could be being the English Winter Olympics team, or it could be disposing of toxic virus material for the US military. All these things are running out. These are all very still current after 40 odd years, but there you go. The Goodies could do it all. So I think now what we should do, Steve, is have a look at the stars of the show, Graeme, Tim and Bill. As we do so, it is brilliant, I feel, when sitcom stars use their own names. The show's not about them. So the Bill, Tim and Graeme in real life are not the Bill, Tim and Graeme in the show. No one should confuse them because they're quite, in a lot of ways, different to how they are in real life. But it does have the beautiful side effect of making them instantly recognizable. Yep. So you can cash in on the celebrity aspect of the thing. But as far as sitcomery goes, Graeme. So what you'll find, Steve, as I go through this... that all three of the Goodies wrote a lot of sketch shows in the 60s with the Python crew. We'll go into more detail. Graeme was a writer for 4 episodes of Hark at Barker in the late 60s. The great Ronnie Barker. But he also wrote for sitcoms like Doctor in the House, Doctor at Large, all of those, because when Graeme was at uni, with all the other bods, he was doing medicine, would you know? He was an actual doctor. He also wrote the sitcom called Astronauts, and that was in the early 80s. kind of post-Goodies. And as late as 1995, he wrote 5 episodes of a sitcom called Surgical Spirit. So again, in the medical field.
Yep.
But he had guest spots on shows like Yes Minister, so we remember his excellent role.
Yes, remember that one.
As the home security bloke in that. And when I say home security, I sort of mean home office,
yes,
national security, not a bloke who installs alarms around.
No.
Although he could probably do that too. Anyway, a lot of Graeme's other success is mainly in devising radio comedy shows. And so they've had I'm Sorry, I Haven't a Clue, which has been running for 40-odd years. And one of his other formats, The Unbelievable Truth, hosted by David Mitchell. And that's Graeme for you. Now, Bill Oddie, just like Graeme, Bill also did the Doctor sitcoms and Harker Barker. But aside from a whole bunch of sketch comedy he wrote and the sitcoms, because he's a writer of the Goodies too, obviously, Bill also had this great career doing kids shows and wildlife shows. So he was a host of Springwatch, and he's probably Britain's most famous bird watcher. And he wrote a kids sitcom called From the Top in 85 and 86, which he also starred in. So these guys have done other sitcoms. And speaking of which, we move on to Tim Brooke-Taylor. We lost him in 2020 to COVID. But out of our 3 Goodies, I reckon that Tim did the most on-screen acting in sitcoms post-Goodies.
Yes.
He was in quite a few. He was a good writer. He wrote a lot of sketch comedy. And the thing about the Goodies is Bill and Graeme wrote most of it, and Tim would chip in with lots of bits, so it's a little nebulous. But in one special they said, written by Graeme Garden and Bill Oddie using Tim Brooke-Taylor's pen, which is quite nice, I thought. Anyway, yeah, so he was in Me and My Girl with the bloke from Robin's Nest. He also starred in a sitcom called You Must Be the Husband. And yes, he did some 2 Ronnies sketch writing in the early 1970s, and he co-wrote the famous 4 Yorkshiremen sketch that was later popularised by Python. So
Very
know the
famous
4
sketch.
Yeah.
Yep.
He also wrote a 1975 sitcom called The Rough with the Smooth, which I'd never
75.
Yeah. So in peak Goodies time, that was when the Goodies, the year that they had their 5 top 20 hits. I think 4 were in the top 10.
What?
They were dominating the charts, dude. They were rock stars for real. They were on top of the pops every other weekend. But don't get me started on all of that. So, yes, some of the sketch shows they wrote in the 60s with the Monty Python crew were like Broaden Your Mind and At Last the 48 Show. So if anyone wants to look on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you find stuff that isn't on DVD, go and check out At Last the 1948 Show or Broaden Your Mind. Do you think all that's accurate and fair, Steve? Or
Yeah, well, definitely the last bit, because as we're going to see in this episode, something happens at the end, and then, of course, we're just completely reset at the start of the next episode.
Yes, like you're right. Like when the Goodies were in ancient Rome, and how did they get back there? And then how did they return to the 20th century? Wow.
Time machine?
Yeah, Graeme.
Just throwing that one out there.
He could whip up one of those pretty easily. Now, everyone can see this coming if they know anything about the Goodies, and that is, although it's a British show, generations of kiddies over here in Australia were raised on the Goodies, including you and I, Steve. So what are your memories of that particular afternoon lineup?
Sitting out in the back room under the air conditioner in the beanbag, watching the Goodies and Doctor Who.
Yeah.
For years and years and years.
What a golden thing.
Yeah.
Poor old people in Britain not getting Goodies repeats, and quite often not getting Doctor Who repeats either.
And when you sent the name of this episode to me, I thought, it's not ringing a bell. But sure enough, after I'd been watching it for 5 minutes, things started happening. I was like, oh, okay. I remember this and I remember that.
Oh,
it
brilliant.
all came flooding back to me.
What were some of the other shows, Steve? I remember like Danger Mouse, obviously, and Kenny Everett.
Yeah, Kenny Everett was a big one.
Yeah.
One that's just come to mind is The Ghost and Mrs. Muir.
Oh, cool.
Which wasn't English and wasn't a comedy show at all. Or was it a comedy show? I don't know. Yeah, just lots of... Like, they were the Doctor Who and the Goodies were the core hour back-to-back, and then there were other things that were kind of slotted earlier.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're sort of going down memory lane here and not really moving along. So let's have a clip and check out something from this episode. Then we'll come back and I will give you a very punchy synopsis.
Goodies, goody, goody, yum, yum. You need help in
interrupt our Christmas Eve carol service to bring you an important announcement. The world will end at 12 o'clock tonight. I'll just repeat that. The world will end at 12 o'clock tonight.
It's a hoax.
This is not a hoax.
It's not a hoax.
World leaders have been meeting in Washington over the past week to consider the ever-worsening problems of inflation, overpopulation, racism, pollution, you name it, they've considered it. They've come to the conclusion there is no point in going on. It is their unanimous decision that at 12 o'clock tonight, in a final act of unprecedented international military cooperation, the world will be blown up. We hope that this interruption has not spoilt your enjoyment of the carol service. And we now return you to St. Martin in the Fields.
Right, so Christmas Eve has arrived at Goody's headquarters, so Graham's busy decorating the Christmas trees, fiddling about with it, and when he's just finishing doing this, all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, Bill zooms in on his new skateboard, and he sends the tree that Graham's just been decorating with much care. It goes crashing to the floor, and Bill has bought this skateboard as a present to himself. Graham said, whoever bought you that must be very irresponsible.
Yeah.
Who was it? And he goes, oh, it was me.
He's not wrong.
We go, yeah, totally. But luckily, Graeme, knowing what sort of destruction Bill is liable to cause with a skateboard, he's bought himself a handy gift for Christmas as well, a skateboard destruction kit, which he duly puts to good use. So what was in this skateboard destruction kit, Steve? Did your eagle eyes catch any of the elements of that?
Well, there was a hammer.
Yes.
There was a revolver.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other thing? He put the pieces of the skateboard into the box and then put a plunger down and blew it up as well. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's just could be an all-round
It's a heck of a
kit, really. You could explode, or you could destroy any sort of thing with that.
Guitar destruction kit.
Yeah.
Vehicle destruction kit.
Yeah.
Anything you like. Oh, man. No, it was pretty cool. Yeah. So you got 3 points for that, Steve. We had a hammer, a pistol, and explosives. So despite this minor argument about the tree and the skateboard, right, Bill and Graeme, they've promised, okay, this Christmas we're not going to have any rows. We're all going to get along and be all very nice. And we're going to enjoy it if that's the last bloody thing we do. So they go, oh, well, let's tune into the carol service on the radio at 11:30. But the carol service is almost immediately interrupted by an important announcement, which perhaps the listener has just heard, saying that the world will end at midnight due to ever-worsening problems like overpopulation and pollution and et cetera. The world leaders have agreed that there's no point in going on. We're going to combine all our military forces to blow the Earth up in half an hour from now, at midnight tonight.
Now I can see why they did this.
Yes.
In terms of
plot-wise. Okay.
But 3/4 of the population or more are going to be asleep. They'll never hear this announcement. They're just going to be blown up.
Yes.
Seems a bit.
It's very.
They're never going to get there half an hour to run around like silly geese.
Yeah. No. Is that a blessing?
Seems a bit unfair.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I don't know.
Yeah. But, like at least if you were asleep, then you haven't suffered. You haven't gone through that half an hour of stress. Anyway, let's figure out what they've got going on with their half hour of stress. So Graeme and Bill, they're like, okay, what? Hang on a second. The world's going to end half an hour from now. What are we going to do? So the first thing Graeme does is he decides to make a quick phone call to see if he can claim this on his insurance. Oh, my goodness. But
End
Bill,
of the world insurance?
Yeah.
What's the excess you pay on for the end of the world?
Yeah. How long do you have to wait for the check to arrive? Right, so Bill, however, he's on it straight away, right? So he instantly announces he's going to spend his final 27 and a half minutes of life with what he calls an orgy of self-indulgence, an odyssey, and he's going to, eat lots of food and go out with lots of women. And, anyway, we'll probably play a clip of everything Bill's going to do.
Now, what haven't I done yet? Or what have I done that I enjoyed so much, I want to do it again? Now, come on, flash me a few headings.
Sport.
Sport, marvellous. Right, skateboard, and footy. Another one there, and footy. What I'm going to do, I'm going to skateboard to Wembley, bang in a hat-trick. What's next?
Food.
Food, marvellous, whilst licking the chocolate off 24 Mars bars.
What is it?
Girls, right. And pleasuring the entire female contingent of New Edition.
And music?
Music, absolutely. Don't forget the guitar, because I shall go and sit in on a final reunion concert of the Beatles.
He's going to spend his last 27 minutes doing a list of things you could never possibly
Yeah,
achieve in 27 minutes.
Absolutely. But the goodies can do anything, Steve. especially Bill. So Bill invites Graeme to come along on this odyssey, but Graeme's a bit stunned and he's sitting there. He doesn't quite know what to do, but after a little bit of thought, he kind of realises what's he got left to do. He's already accomplished every weird thing that a loony scientist can do, and he lists those off, i.e. giant kittens and all the other amazing things that Graeme's done during the series.
This is the contrast between the two characters.
Yes.
You've got one who just says, right, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this, and
Yep.
barely any of it's actually possible, whereas Graeme's very analytical and, hang on, just give me a minute to think about this. I'm going to weigh up the options and
Yes.
choose the optimal thing.
You're quite right. And they illustrate this almost straight away, don't they? Because Bill says, right, I'm out of here. Graeme asks him to stay and help break the news to Tim.
Who hasn't appeared yet.
Yeah, but he just about does there. He enters not very long after that, wearing a sandwich board with the prophetic slogan, "The end of the world is nigh," written on his sandwich board that he's got on. I'm sure one or two of the younger listeners may not know what a sandwich board is, but that's something to Google. You'll like that.
It's a sandwich board advertising nuts.
Yeah, Tim's nuts are nicest.
So is he... What, he's just
no,
running a
this is-
seasonal nut
yeah, this is
stall,
his-
or what's going on here?
Yeah, hot chestnut stall. So this is his side hustle, dude.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very un-Timbo thing to have, but, when the plot demands it, he's got to have a side hustle selling nuts. Goodness knows why. Anyway, but yeah, Tim's unaware of the world's impending demise. He is incredibly excited, though, about Christmas and Father Christmas's arrival. So he's prattling on about Christmas Eve and sleigh bells and hanging up his Christmas stocking, and he's talking about all this stuff. And Graeme, seeing how in the zone Tim is about Christmas, he just can't bear to tell him the bad news. But Bill's not having any of this. Bill's happy to tell Tim because he hates all Tim's soppiness. So as Tim is still rabbiting on about wanting a chimney to send a note up at the Father Christmas, Bill, who, as you were just saying, Steve, he's a man of direct action, right? No patience. So he just gets a sledgehammer and smashes this massive hole in the wall. He goes, "You want a chimbo, Timbo? You can have a chimbo." Yep. Put your note in that and send it to Father Christmas. Anyway, so then he starts getting a bit shouty at poor old Tim. And then mercilessly explains the situation to Tim, which sets Tim off on one of his famous "I'm a teapot" panic attacks. So a great bit of this explanation, Steve, is when Bill is showing Tim the Radio Times, which is not only a genius bit of prop comedy, but I think it's also a bit of a plot spoiler.
No, it just means that the evil authorities had plotted to blow up the world a month previous,
but didn't want
and
to
had
waste the ink.
given the word to the Radio Times on the QT.
Yeah. To leave
It's perfectly straightforward.
20 pages blank
Yeah.
after Christmas.
Essentially, yeah.
I see. Oh, good. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to that one.
We know
really
there's a
enjoyed
classic
that.
gag in our Miranda Christmas episode about the Radio Times, isn't
Oh,
there?
really? It was that in the episode we covered?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Let's
This
go
is
and look
like
that
3 years ago or something. Though. No wonder I can't remember. Bill's fed up, right, with Tim losing it. He's probably seen Tim do his "I'm a teapot" too many times. Anyway, Bill is eager to leave to go on his adventure. And Tim's begging him to stay for Christmas. And Bill says, "Tim, there's not going to be a Christmas." And it's at this point that Graham's genius idea of rescheduling Christmas comes into play, Steve-O, setting up a vital plot point and creating a few minutes of some of the best sitcom dialogue of all time. So it's almost up there with Who's on First. So I'm going to put a clip in of about 1/3 of this whole scene.
Oh, no, if I am enjoying myself, mate, I am not coming back for Christmas.
Please be back for Christmas, Billy Willie, please.
Oh, listen, why can't we have Christmas now and get it over with?
Oh, all right.
Good. Happy Christmas. Goodbye.
That wasn't Christmas as I remember it.
No, we need time to plan it. I'll tell you what, let's have Christmas at 11:42. And then that still leaves us a minute for Tim to find his shiny shoes.
Absolutely, and me to start on Jane Fonda.
You're not leaving this room.
All right, I'm going to get her over here then.
William, I'm not having any shenanigans in this room on Christmas.
What Christmas? You just missed it.
All right, then, look, we'll have Christmas at 11:43.
Ah, yeah, but that'll be Christmas next year, because we just missed Christmas this year, so that must be Christmas 1978, right?
Yes.
It was 1978. What happened to my birthday? We missed my birthday.
When's your birthday?
Just before Christmas, you never remember.
All right, then we'll have your birthday at 11:42 and a half.
What about my birthday? I mean, if his birthday's next Christmas, that means we've just skipped to you, which means you've missed my birthday. I want my birthday. Come on, put it
Your
in.
birthday, 11:42 and 3/4, then, all right.
And yours.
We haven't got time for 3 birthdays.
No, we haven't. And we just missed Christmas again.
What? Oh.
So after all that, Bill goes out briefly, and he leaves Tim and Graeme standing there to contemplate their sins. As you do when you know you're going to die, you think back over your life. Or in Tim's case, it's a bit of a lack of sins. But even though Tim's sinned very little in his life, he still wants to confess. And Bill must have known this was on the cards, so he comes in at that point and acts as a priest to hear Tim's feeble confessions, because he likes a bit of sort of, whoa, Tim's going to spill the beans here.
Yeah,
I want to hear this. And find out all the secret sordid stuff he's been up to. It does turn out to be a bit disappointing, though. Anyway.
What? There's an A string.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So
that's a
Tim's
bit juicy,
feeble
isn't it?
confessions involves when he's in the bath, yes, and little bubbles, and yes, all that sort of stuff. This is the sum total of Tim's sinning. Bill tries to strangle him in a sinful fit of anger, because obviously Bill's only got limited time left on this planet, and he was expecting some juicy stuff from Tibbo, and all he got was bubbles in the bath.
You'll get life imprisonment for that. I'll take it.
Oh, blimey. Anyway, so then Graeme chips in. He's objecting to Bill being the only person here having any fun. So then Graeme has a turn at choking Tim. But then he decides to devote the rest of his life, a whole 12 minutes, to trying to remove Tim's inhibitions so that Tim can finally enjoy himself and stop being so repressed right here at the very end. And so Graeme finds out that Tim's got this huge hang-up about something hidden deep beneath his Union Jack waistcoat. What is it, Steve?
It's his belly button.
It's his belly button. Poor old Timbo.
Is that an actual phobia? Did you look at that?
Oh, possibly. I haven't looked it up, no. This is answers on the back of a postcard, emailed to sitcomshowdown@gmail.com. What's the belly button phobia called?
Let us know if you've got the phobia.
Graeme uses hypnosis on Tim. Now, there's a few little, predictable and yet cool hypnosis gags here. But he's regressing Tim back to childhood, right? And so then while this is going on, Bill gets dressed up as Tim's mother and comes in, and they're doing some role play. But Tim, he's hypnotized. He thinks he is a child again.
Come over here, sit on my knee, and let your old mum scrape the fluff out of your belly button. That's it. We want you to look nice and clean for the big parade on Belly Button Sunday. I shall be there, watching you. Proud as punch I'll be.
I'd rather you weren't mother of mine.
And why not, pray? Oh, I know. You're ashamed of your old mother, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's true. I'm ashamed of her. Stop it, Tim. That's not really your mother. It's Bill playing an irresponsible prank. Wake up, Tim. Is that anything like your real mother?
Yes, it is.
The whole thing doesn't go very well, Steve, and Bill exits in a very unhappy mood because this clearly hasn't worked for Timbo. And yet again, Bill has wasted more time he could have spent eating chocolate or hanging out with Jane Fonda.
Graham's a bit upset because Bill's carrying on hasn't really helped
The situation.
Hasn't solved Tim's problem at all.
It looked
Made it
promising
worse.
initially, though.
Yeah.
So it's all looking pretty bad, and there's not much time left, and for some reason Tim decides he's got to do the ironing. So as he's ironing, he's sort of saying, oh, this is terrible, what's going to happen to all my favourite players at Derby County, and and then he goes, the Muppets, I hope they don't suffer. Graeme has to explain.
In order to explain that the Muppets are puppets.
And not real, and that they won't suffer.
He grabs a couple of socks and... What's the other thing? Like knitting needles or something like that?
No, he's got a...
Kermit's hands.
Kermit's
Anyway,
hands.
he's got some things out of the laundry basket, and he's illustrating how easy it is to make a Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
And he does how do you rate his Kermit?
I'd give it a solid 7.5 to 8 out of 10.
Yep.
And then he does Fozzie Bear, and he even does Statler and Waldorf shouting from the sidelines. Boo, boo,
Yes.
the bear's
This is
clean,
one
the
where
bear's a bear.
everyone from that generation will know what's going on, but for the youngsters, I don't know.
Yeah. Graeme does point out that the Muppets are... Well, Graeme calls them just dollies. And he does the thing with the green sock and the... but this, right, the revelation that the Muppets aren't actually real, that's the last straw for Tim. And I think his psyche snaps at this point in time. And he goes berserk, and then he goes away into the kitchen and he charges back into the room with an oven, like an entire big stove, and he throws it at Graeme in a fit of rage. And as you pointed out, Steve, a bit of this foam oven snaps off, does it?
Yeah.
And then,
Throwing an oven, it's straight out of bottom.
it is. Right. But the worst bit about this, according to Graeme, is that Tim has now ruined the Christmas cake. Graeme celebrates his final triumph because he now knows that he's freed Tim of his inhibitions and he can die a happy man. And so he turns on the TV to see what's happening on the news. And it cuts to people frolicking in Trafalgar Square and all the various things going off. And the royals are taking off to live on Saturn in a rocket or some such thing. Who knows? Yep. Anyway, so Bill re-emerges at this point. And obviously Bill's feeling absolutely terrible about the way he's treated Tim. And he says something about, and I'm not going from my notes anymore, about how I want him to see the real me. And like all of a sudden, instead of his rock and roller gear, he's wearing a nice suit. And he's shaven off his beard, and he looks very un-Bill-like.
Did he do this for real?
Yeah. So up to this point, and spoilers, he reveals that he's been wearing a wig the whole time and he never had a hell of a lot of hair. And he's actually wearing a hairpiece, which is his pet Peruvian long-haired gerbil. And Graham's just gobsmacked by all of this. And so Bill's got shiny shoes, which is a very Timish thing. And so apparently Bill was never a genuine wild man. He was always repressing this straight-laced person inside him or something.
All right, we'll come back to this.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
In our wrap-up.
God. And so he's going to show his true self to Tim. And then Graham's reeling from Bill's confessions here. Tim comes back in. Like, this episode is like Fawlty Towers in the amount of people coming and going and doing all this stuff. It's quite amazingly paced. Tim comes in completely cured of his inhibitions, flaunting his belly button everywhere. In fact, his T-shirt, man, he's got this beautiful bright blue T-shirt with silver arrows pointing to a big hole in the middle around his belly button.
Yep.
Parading it around the room.
What a hussy.
And so he now, instead of being all repressed, Timbo's speaking his mind, and which essentially equates to him abusing the crap out of Bill and Graeme and picking on all their features and being rather nasty. And kneeing Bill right in the bollocks, which I think that's a payback that's been 5 or 6 years coming. But here's the surprising bit, though, Steve, because Tim, right, then he follows this up by completely trashing Christmas, which is the shocking bit. And so he's going, oh, Christmas, who cares? It's not about giving, it's about getting, and nobody enjoys it, and it's just a load of rubbish, and then starts drinking heavily and doing all this stuff and generally being nasty. But then everyone realises it's 11:56 and they've only got 4 minutes left to live, Steve. It's Christmas because they booked this in, as we heard earlier. They booked in Christmas at 11:56. So all three of them sing this beautiful jolly medley of carols while plucking a turkey. Now, what did you think of the carol singing there, Steve?
It sounded to me like they'd pre-recorded it, played it back. So someone must have just hit play at the right time.
Yeah. They mimed it really well, though.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was pretty nifty. Anyway, so they exchange presents, and that was pretty funny as well. But then, of course, Bill, all he gets from Tim is Tim's dirty socks, and he says, hey, they're not to be sniffed at.
Stop it!
Smelly socks.
Look, you're taking things off my best gags list.
Oh, sorry, okay. Well, I'm on the last paragraph.
Crossing the socks off.
So at this point, Graeme notices it's 20 seconds to midnight, and they go, well, we can't end like this rowing. Well, we've got to say something nice to each other before we get blown up. And then there's like stony silence because they can't think of a single nice thing to say to each other, which is a bit of a shame. Tim and Bill cower under the table as the final seconds tick down. And then it hits midnight and Graeme just laughs at them fiendishly and the world doesn't end after all. And Graeme says, I've played a joke on you. I've got you a beauty. I put the clock forward. I just wanted to see the looks on your faces. And it's worked a treat. He's got them an absolute beauty here. And the boys, they do see the humour in it. And I think they're just very relieved at not dying. And I think there's a hint that, because Graeme can achieve anything, right? Maybe Graeme rigged the broadcast.
I've got that in my notes.
And did all this stuff. But then one of the boys asks Graeme, how much did you put the clock forward by? He goes, only 15 seconds or so. And then you just hear...
Yep.
And then the BBC ident comes up, and that blows up.
The globe that spins on that explodes.
And there's no credits. And so that implies nothing's coming back next week because the whole world's blown up. And actually, that reminded me of the silent credits in Doctor Who after Earthshock, when Adric dies. So we've got Earthanasia and Earthshock.
Yeah, and I think at the end of Blackadder Goes Forth, was there a different ending for that one as well?
Yes, it was a freeze frame and a sad song. And I can't watch the last episode of Blackadder Goes Forth. Too sad, man.
It transcended the sitcom.
Oh, it did. You brought me right down now, Steve-O.
Well, it's this episode, man. It's just got that theme to it.
So that is the end of the synopsis.
Hey sitcom fans, it's time to check out the hastily scribbled notes on the mantelpiece and warm up your vocal cords for one of the most high-pitched theme tunes of all time. Because here at the Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive, we're now deep diving the 80s John Sullivan classic Dear John.
Dear John.
Yes, fresh from deep diving every episode made of The Good Life and Faulty Towers, we've skipped forward to the 1980s to take a closer look at jilted John and his gang of fellow divorced misfits at the One-to-One Club.
A sitcom expertly crafted by John Sullivan, the ensemble of quirky characters includes the feisty but frigid Kate, monotonous motorcycle combination rider Ralph, and the infamous man about town Kirk St. Moritz.
And we get to attempt a good old poke around the ins and outs of their sex lives with club leader Louise, yeah?
There's more to John than his bedsit lifestyle.
So if you fancy a trip down memory lane, Bagsy your front row seat at the One-to-One Club by visiting sado.club or subscribing to the Sado podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Traditionally, at this point, I hand over to you, Steve.
We're crossing off the things that you've already said.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, while you're doing that, now the Radio Times. I thought, well, isn't that a dead giveaway? No one's supposed to know this super secret thing that the world's going to get blown up on midnight at Christmas Eve as it ticks over to Christmas Day, and yet they've printed out the Radio Times with all these blank pages. Surely someone would A, ask why, and B, if you're going to keep the subterfuge going, you would have just printed any old crap, wouldn't you?
Yeah, what does it matter?
Yeah. It is brilliant, because it's that hammers it home to Tim in a very physical way. You can talk about the concept all you want, but when half the Radio Times is blank, that's proof.
Yep.
So you don't consider that a issue?
No, I'm not fussed by that at all.
Cool. Now, what about the plucking of the turkey, Steve? So they bring out,
that definitely qualifies as stupid stuff.
They, on this massive silver platter, you see this enormous turkey, which we then find out as they're singing the Christmas carols, and let's say that goes for 90 seconds. They're plucking away, and all they're left with is this tiny, quail-sized turkey.
It was all feathers.
And so it was all feathers. But what I'm wondering is, if you've only got 5 minutes to live anyway, why bother plucking the turkey at all? Because you ain't going to have time to wait for it to cook, and you're not going to be able to eat it.
That's right. And I liked how, obviously, this choral arrangement of the Christmas Carol medley that they'd pre-recorded went for a certain length, and they obviously hadn't figured out exactly how long it was going to take them to pluck the turkey. So halfway through the song or something, they've plucked the turkey, and then they're just grabbing feathers off the tray and throwing them everywhere.
That's true.
They have to keep it going.
I don't think it detracts from the... It is obvious what's happened there, but I don't think it detracts from the scene.
Plot hole.
Yeah. Well, maybe
it's the turkey too quickly.
A technical issue. Anyway, over to you, Steve. What have you got in the gags department, dude?
Oh, gags. Okay. Well, I like the fact that Tim was walking around with "The end of the world is nigh" blazoned on his sign, but he didn't know that it actually was. That was nice. He says to Bill, "Bill, you're rough, but you're kind." This is when Bill had just knocked the chimney into the wall.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I'm a teapot. Now, I'm a teapot. You're saying he did that? That was like his catchphrase, was it?
Yeah, I'd say he's done it anywhere between 5 and a dozen times on the goodies.
Anytime the world's about to end.
Yeah, or anytime they're in a very dire situation. Yes. That's his panic attack.
Yeah, I like the idea that they're trying to squeeze Christmas in, but they keep missing it because they spend too long talking. Bill says, "Sin something simple."
Yeah. So do you like the alliteration of that?
Yes.
Because he doesn't want a big, long explanation because time's ticking away.
That's right. I haven't got time for anything complicated. Keep it simple. The fact that Tim's inhibition is his belly button seems pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
then the A string, Steve. So can you explain this to the poor old listener who can't see what's going on there?
Well, was it a G-string that just kind of made it?
He said it's
Made its way north.
like a G-string, but a little higher up.
Yeah.
So it's a triangle of fabric, and like very sort of royal fabric, very fancy doily like satiny stuff that covers up his belly button.
Yeah.
And it's his modesty belly button covering bit of negligee-ish.
Yeah. It's
I've never seen anything like it.
I don't imagine the listeners will have too much trouble picturing that.
Not if I put it as the thumbnail for the episode cover.
No. That's probably a good idea. Well, it's a toss-up, though, between that and the T-shirt that he comes back in with later that's got the hole cut out over his belly button.
Yep.
Yeah. Then they have touch therapy.
Ooh.
Is one of the things that Graeme attempts. Tim reaches out and touches Bill's face, and that's really funny because he's kind of moving his mouth around and getting into his beard and stuff.
And then Tim's going, ugh.
Then they flip it around, and Graeme says, Bill, right, you touch Tim now. And you kind of wait for his hands to go out to Tim's face, but instead he's obviously grabbed him somewhere below the
below the belt.
Below the belt.
And the thing is, like, their hands down by their waists are out of shot. Yep. And all you hear and see is Tim go, ooh!
Yeah, so I think the first thing you think
Bill
is
smiling.
He's gone somewhere in the trouser region.
Yeah, he's squirrel gripping.
No.
That's right, HG would say.
Yeah, exactly. But he's actually gone for the belly button, which, again, he's completely sabotaging this whole therapy business. The fact that Tim's mum used to scrape the fluff out of his belly button.
For Belly Button Sunday.
For the parade on Belly Button Sunday. That's such a flight of fancy. It's quite hilarious.
Goodness.
Then we discovered that Tim's mum had a beard just like Bill. It was like jowl to jowl carpeting.
What a turn of phrase.
Yes. So I love the bit where Graeme says, "You ruined the cake." After being knocked onto the floor by the oven being thrown at him.
That's another, Graeme not being human.
Yep. Maybe I'll save this one for a bit later on. And then, just the last one I had, which was the sock gag that you stole from me about the socks not being sniffed at.
Yeah.
That's the end
So
of my
it's
list.
just like there's that's a good list of gags you've got there. Sorry, I was just going to say that there's a lot of sock action because of course he does the whole Kermit thing and all that sort of stuff as well. But another bit I really liked is when Tim and Graeme just have a nice quiet sit down together on the desk and they close their eyes to think back over their lives and ponder their sins, and there's silence, and then you hear just Graeme sitting there with his eyes closed going, and then he goes, and then he starts laughing out loud very maniacally, and you just think, what are all these horrible things that Graham's done?
He's mad scientist things.
It'll be all those dogs he bred with stoves and all the other stuff he's done that was off screen that we never saw. But I reckon there's a lot of fertile ground for some fan fiction there. That would be pretty cool. But just the way Graeme played that whole scene, I thought was lively. And Tim, he's struggling to think of any sins at all. All right. Now, have you got anything left, Steve? Have you got some thoughts?
I do have some thoughts.
All good.
Do you want to hear what my thoughts are?
I do.
So I think they're all it's a list of things I liked about it overall. And the first one was that it almost appears to happen in real time. So they've got 30 minutes left. The episode's 30 minutes long, so I like that. They didn't record it
all
in one take or anything like that, did they?
Yeah, no, you'd think not, no.
I can't imagine Bill had enough time to shave his beard and all that sort of stuff. So
true.
But yes, I like that. We've got 30 minutes for something to happen. So we're going to, it's going to happen in real time. The
stakes.
The stakes. The props. I mean, the goodies are known for their props, but of course that's just brilliant stuff. All prepared and ready to go. The skateboard destruction kit, the radio times with the blank pages, the gerbil, the turkey, all that stuff is fantastic.
The sledgehammer.
Yep.
Just lying around.
Yeah.
Who knows why?
You never know when you're going to need a sledgehammer. The fact that it all happened on the one set must have been the cheapest goodies episode they ever made, surely.
It's a classic bottle episode, isn't it? They did another one, of course, and that was when they were trapped in their office again because they were trapped in a block of concrete.
So they were never trapped in a bottle.
No.
Is that a
That's
bottle
what
show?
they call it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they call it a bottle episode. There's another couple of terms for it, and I prefer those. I just can't remember what they are, which is odd because I've heard the phrase bottle episode so much it's taken over now.
So they made some savings here, and then they spent it on episodes where they had people moving around in stop motion
Oh, yeah.
in parks and things like that.
Exactly.
Yes, the last thing on my list was the potential twist that we were talking about, which is where they make you think that Graeme may have been pranking them the whole time, that he put this radio broadcast together somehow.
Which he could.
Which he could have done.
And even I, as the viewer, still go, oh, thank goodness, maybe it was just a prank after all.
So I like that.
Yeah.
That was really good at the end. And then, of course, it's just, no, to put the clock forward 15 seconds or whatever it was.
Do you like the fact that they followed through with it and blew everyone up?
Sure.
Yeah, oh, cool. All right. Well, is that it for you?
Yeah.
Is that? Oh, there we go. I've only got two more thoughts before I put the final case, but it was just an odd thing with the cultural references, because when Bill's listing off all the cool things he wants to do, he wants to go sit in on a reunion concert of the Beatles, and then obviously in my lifetime, it's been, well, that's impossible because John Lennon's been dead.
Yep.
But this is, of course, a few years before John Lennon died, but also it must only be 1 or 2 years into the emergence of the Muppets. And I've never had the Muppets and the Beatles occupy the same cultural space in my mind.
Yep.
And they're just not compatible to me in the same... And so that I found that quite interesting. I don't know why.
There's no Venn diagram in
No.
which the Muppets and the Beatles overlap for you.
No. I do now wonder. You're now making me think if George Harrison or Paul McCartney was ever on the Muppets.
I was just about to
Oh,
say,
really?
I'm sure that must have happened at some point.
Dude.
One of them would have been a guest on the Muppet Show.
Right. We want comments on the socials or email us at sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.
I've been listening to all this talk about Saturday Night Live and how amazing it was to be the host, the highlight of your career if you ever hosted Saturday Night Live. And I was thinking, must have been like that with the Muppet Show.
You'd think
They had a guest on every week and it must have been massive.
Yeah. Would have been a very similar thing, wouldn't it? You get your song or you get your act to do.
Yep. Sing along with the Muppet.
Ah, good point. I reckon it would have been better than being on Saturday Night Live. Anyway, yes, my other thought was, I thought it was quite touching when Graeme does point out that in trying to help Tim overcome his inhibitions with the hypnosis, it is him devoting his last few minutes of life to help out his friend and try and help him with some of his psychological hang-ups and stuff like that. So I just thought, that's in amongst all the rapid-fire gags, it was a touching little moment, I thought.
But then it just goes wrong.
Yeah.
So why do
You're asking questions at this point, oh dear.
So why do they flip the characters of Bill
And Tim.
and Tim with 5 minutes left to go in the world?
For the humour? Because we're not used to seeing Tim act in that way, and so it's great when he does. And some people would argue that in series 9 he becomes a bit more like that. He loosens up a bit. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'll save that for the Goodies podcast. But yeah, with Bill, there's something a bit not quite right about Bill being a straight-laced person with no beard and all that sort of gear.
Yep.
Yeah. Why, has that set a bit of sort of, it just didn't seem right to you? Or you're wondering why they bothered to do it?
Yeah, I can see Tim flipping in his personality because there's obvious humour in that, but yeah, it doesn't. Something about Bill doing it in the way he did doesn't seem quite right.
Well, maybe because it's a gain, right?
Of course, you get to see him without his beard.
Yeah.
Bald, so that's pretty funny.
True. But see, then what you've taken is you've taken someone incredibly fun and made them into a not fun person. And that's why the Bill thing seems so wrong. But you've taken Tim and you've taken a not particularly outgoing and chaotic character and turned him into another Bill, except worse. And there's a lot to be gained from that. So maybe that's why the Tim thing, we see that as being 2 thumbs up because we're gaining, whereas it's a loss with Bill. I don't know.
The end of the world can do that to you, dude.
It can. So yes, my case, Steve-O, is that this is a rare and unusual type of Goodies episode. It is filmed on the one set, as you said, with only the 3 goodies and no fancy visual effects or these manic chase scenes. And, it's just half an hour of funny black humour and character portrayals, really. And that is not what the Goodies is known for. But it is one of their very best episodes. And I think it's very funny but thoughtful. As the end of the world, especially when you've just found out like they have and you've only got half an hour, I think it's something humans can't wrap their head around. And this is why Graham's on the blower to the insurance company and Tim wants to do the ironing. But, Bill's straight on it because he's the very simple, direct person. I think it's just a very, very clever sitcom episode. But it doesn't go all soft because it still kills them in the end and the world does blow up. So I think, it's good, man. It's a classic goodies episode. But the question is, even though this is a Christmas episode, does it get into the Hall of Fame?
I'm just trying to get over the fact that your closing point and all that was, and they killed them.
Yeah,
Therefore,
that's
it's
right.
5 stars. Now, they could have said that it was all Graham's prank and just left it at that.
Yeah.
Would that have made better?
If they'd done that, would you feel that's a bit of a letdown?
No.
No.
I might have felt better about it.
Oh, really? Because I quite liked how Graeme bails you out, and then he's totally...
Graeme just comes across as a smug git.
Yeah.
In this episode, he's not worried at all about the end of the world, or
He's satisfied with his life.
the moral dimension of this or anything like that.
No.
He's just like, oh, I've done everything I wanted to do. I'm cool.
Yeah. I'm just going to play a trick on these boys.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it would have made him even less likeable if it had all been a prank.
But you need that contrast between him and the other two. You've got all the three. You've got the person who's quite good about it. Then you've got Bill, who just wants to go and live it up. And
Yep.
you've got Tim, who's stressed about absolutely everything.
No one wants to rage against the
dying
injustice
of
the
world
elite
leaders. No.
deciding to off everyone.
Yeah.
What's with that?
I don't know. It wouldn't have made for a very funny comedy episode, I suppose. That's my
You get the
my
video
theory.
of the people at Trafalgar Square,
Square.
and they're all
So you're saying
smiling and
instead of playing splashies in the fountain, that they should have been burning down Number 10 or something like that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Possibly
happen
so.
today. Maybe we were
No.
a more compliant. Oh no, are we a more compliant generation than we were?
Oh, I don't
back
know.
then?
Yes.
Oh, we've wandered right off the.
We have.
You know what I'm doing?
Yeah, you're stalling because
Stalling
you
time.
don't want to put it in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't, because I've got to talk about
It doesn't give me the good time goodies vibes I want.
No, but
It's
like
like Scout Rages,
as a
things
piece
like
of
that.
sitcomery though, it's superbly well written, and it does a tremendous job. And amongst Goodies fans, out of 70 odd episodes and a decade of series, it's up there amongst the very best.
Technically, I have to admit, technically it's quite good.
Mm.
And the theme, even though it's depressing, it's an interesting situation and it lets you delve into their character stuff. So
It does.
it's well done for all that.
Yeah. This is not what you're expecting.
But our beloved 3 chaps, seeing them get blown up, it's not going to make you feel good, is it?
No. But they'll come back next week. It's not
That's
the
true.
only time they got blown up. They got, there's so many times when it ended badly for them.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
could do an interesting episode about sitcom episodes where
Everyone dies.
everyone
at the end.
dies or things go completely off the rails.
Mm.
Yep. Anyway, does it go into the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
I think so. It doesn't make me feel good. It's not a feel-good
good.
episode,
Yeah.
but I can't really think of anything to
This
knock
is
it back on.
this is quite a unique situation, isn't it? Then.
Yeah.
I don't think we've come across this in Sitcom Showdown before.
It's doing all the right things for all the right reasons. It just doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah. And I'll sick all the Goodies people onto you if you don't put it in.
They'll blow me up.
Yeah. That's right. All right. Well, good. I'm going to stop conversation before it goes any further, and you get a chance to change your mind. Now, the next time around, Steve, is going to be episode 90. Do you already know what you're going to be doing?
No, I've been throwing a few ideas around.
Yep. Oh, okay.
We talked a while back about Sean Locke's sitcom. Had thought about bringing an episode of that along. I also want to do an episode of Taxi at some point.
Fair enough.
And I was watching something the other day, and actually it was that Blackadder book that you gave me for Christmas, and they were talking about what they call the American Blackadder. It's not an exact remake of Blackadder, but it's a very close version, which actually got cancelled after about 3 or 4 episodes
Oh.
because it was a little bit controversial. But I watched an episode or 2 of it,
Yeah.
and I thought, it's an interesting, because we've done episodes before where we looked at transatlantic changes. So we looked at the American version of Fawlty Towers, and we
Yeah.
looked at the English version of Mad About You.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it could be another one of those.
Well, if that occurs, I'll look forward to that. That'll be tip-top. All right. Well, that's that then, Steve.
Yep.
Well done.
was
Episode
fun.
89, yes. And that's the second time we've got the Goodies in there, so I am pleased.
You can't have too many goodies episodes in the Hall of Fame.
I agree. Just like Blackadder itself. All right. Well, thank you again, and thank you, dear listener. And we will keep our eyes peeled on the Gmail and everything else for the many questions we asked you during this episode.
Yes, anyone who's got belly button phobia.
All right. Thank you, and goodbye.
See ya.
Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter at Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.